Okay. Don't look at how I look because I look a little bit crusty. Hey girl. Okay, so doing self-tape. I'm doing a get ready with me. I'm getting ready for a self-tape, obviously. Today I'm gonna do a story time because I was talking to one of my friends and I was talking to one of my friends about how I was when like I first got saved. Like this was like a couple weeks saved and I was just like cracking up because it was so funny. So listen, I grew up in church, right? No, I'm sure I did not grow up in church at all. We went to church like on Resurrection Sunday. We went to church like a couple times out of the month, but we weren't like faithful church goers because my mom worked a lot and like by the time Sunday came, she was exhausted and she didn't feel like going to church, pretty much. My mom also just like, she did not enjoy church growing up, so she never like forced me to go to church, which was actually really good because I used to really want to go when I was a kid. And we would go to like these really chill like white churches where church was like an hour tops, you know, like, it was so chill. I'm just giving you the backstory so you can understand what I'm about to say. So fast forward a couple of years, I got saved in 2019. I was like gung-ho. Like I was like super excited. I was excited because I had been obedient to the Lord. And he had told me to sing on the praise team in my church. And I did it, and I just felt like so excited after that because it was just such a great experience the first couple Sundays. So then this girl who I'm friends with now, by the time we weren't friends like that. Like she was cool, but we weren't friends. So she was like, hey, do you want to like come to my small group? She had this group called Life Group. And it was this group where like, it was like young adults. No, it was young adults. Yeah, it was like young adults. It was like young adults. It was like adults under like 40. So not really young, but like young-ish adults. She was like, do you want to come to my small group? And I was like, yes! And the funny thing about that is a couple of weeks beforehand, I want to say like a month beforehand, the pastor was like, hey, you know, this girl does this small group for young adults, and or maybe it was like maybe it was like 6 months beforehand. I don't remember, but he was like, this girl does this small group for young adults. Like if we have any people, like basically like if you're a young adult and you're interested, contact her and she'll send you the information, right? And so my mom looked at me when he said it, and she said, "Are you gonna go?" And I was like, no. Like I didn't miss a beat. I was like, no. Then fast forward a couple of months, she mentions it and I'm like, yeah, I'll go. I ended up going, right? And I would go like all the time. Like they had it on Mondays at that point. And so I would go like, I think it was always Mondays, but I would go like every single Monday. Like I really enjoyed it. And I enjoyed it because I was learning a lot. Like I was learning so much. I felt like a sponge. And one of the things that I learned is that sex was a sin. No, premarital sex was a sin, okay? Here's how it would work. I'll tell you how it works so that makes more sense. So basically what you do is you ask a question and you put the questions in like this bowl, and it's like anonymous. So you can ask like whatever you want without fear of judgment or anything. And like somebody picked up one of the questions and they were like, how important is sex in a relationship? One of the guys in the group, he was like, how important is sex in the relationship? Now, the funny thing about this group is that it ranged from people who were like really saved, who were like OGs, who have been saved for a while, to people who were like me, who were like babes in Christ. And then you have people who were like lukewarm. Like they're like, I'm gonna do whatever I want, but I love Jesus and I'll come to church. So one of the guys who was like on fire, he was like when I say on fire, I mean like he used to always say like, I'm thankful for salvation. Like I prioritize holiness. And I'd be like, what is he talking about? You know what I mean? So he is talking and he's like, how important is sex in a relationship? And everybody was like, starts giggling. And I'm like, oh, and I don't even miss a beat. I'm like, oh, it's super important. I'm like, after money, sex is like the most important thing. And I didn't say it that loud, but like I said it so that people could hear me, like, duh, hello. He's like, if they're not married, it's not important at all. And I'm like, what are you talking about? What do you mean that they're not married? And so I looked to the girl next to me and I'm like, girl, how do you marry somebody without having sex with them first? And then I asked the girl who was over the group, like the leader of the group, and I'm like, how do you marry somebody without having sex with them first? And she's like, ask the group. So then I asked the group, I'm like, wait, how do you marry somebody without having sex with them first? And everyone was like looking at me and they just started laughing. And I'm like, am I missing something? The girl who was over the group, she was like, Siki, do you not read the Bible? I was like, no, I never read the Bible. Are we supposed to? Because I just thought that like preachers read the Bible. I didn't know that like the people who also went to church also had to read the Bible. You know, I was like, I'm not a preacher. I'm not, you know, I'm not like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't have to read the Bible. Like, why would I read the Bible? Like, I thought that was such a silly question too. She's like, do you not read your Bible? I was like, no. Like, do you read yours? She's like, you're supposed to read the Bible. I was like, girl, okay, I'll start reading it then. But then the girl who was next to me, she was like, well, basically, like, God has a person for you, and God has already made sure that person is going to, you know, be the right match for you in that way. I was like, what? Like, what are you talking about? And I'm not kidding, because I heard about people doing this, right? But I thought it was just something people did on like reality TV shows, or like, you know, something that people did just to post on social media, or something that people would do and like lie about, like, oh, I'm celibate, I'm not having sex till I'm married, or something that people would do if they were like Muslim or something and they were in an arranged marriage. I didn't know people were actually out here not having sex until they got married. Like, what are you talking about? So then the girl's like, yeah, she's like, God has a person for you, and that person is gonna be able to satisfy you in that way. And I was like, yeah, I'm sure they are. I'll make sure of it. Cause I'm not about to like obey that rule. That's the rule I'm gonna keep. Like, I'm gonna obey the other rules, but that rule, no. Here was the problem. Here lies the problem though. Because the day I had gotten saved, and I got saved in my car, I was driving and I was like listening to sermons. Cause I used to listen to sermons like before I got saved. If I was spiraling, I would like put on a sermon and I would feel like that would do something for me. I don't know what it would do, but it would do something for me. I would just feel like comforted after listening to a sermon. Before I had learned that premarital sex was a sin, I had told God, like, you know, God, I'm gonna be a servant. I'm gonna be a good daughter to you. I'm gonna be a good servant to you. I'm so sorry for being so disobedient. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I had said all this stuff because I was listening to a sermon and the guy was saying, like, how dare you call yourself a Christian if you're not serving God and if you're not seeking God and asking him how, you know, you can obey him in certain areas in your life. And I was like, oh my gosh. Now, mind you, up until then, I had already been hearing from God. Like, I had already heard from God because I had prayed this prayer. I don't remember what it was, but that same teacher and preacher, I think his name is Keith Moore. He had done a series on hearing from God. And like a year before all this stuff had happened, I had prayed to God and I was like, I want to be able to hear from you. And the reason why I wanted to be able to hear from God is because one of the girls I used to hang out with got a really good job. And I don't know if this is true because after being friends with her for a while, I realized that she was a pathological liar. So who knows if that was true, but she got a really good job and like she ended up like bumping into somebody. So I was like, God, I want to get a good job like that. So I need to like hear from you so you can tell me like where to go. The guy basically told you in the video, he was like telling you like how to know that God is communicating to you. And, you know, he's like, try God, you know, talk to him about things and listen for his response. He's like, when you pray, don't just talk constantly. He's like, sit and have a conversation with the Lord. So I would like listen for the Lord all the time. But the problem was that I would hear God tell me things. And I would be like, no, I'm not doing that. Because he would say stuff like, don't go out tonight. And I'm like, I want you to talk to me, but not right now. Thank you so much. You know what I mean? Or he'd be like, don't go on a date with that guy. or you know, just something like that, or don't apply to this job, like something that that genuinely like just went against the plans that I have for myself. So like, Lord, sorry, I can't listen to you right now. Also, I didn't have an understanding of how salvation really works. How like when Jesus is your Lord, he's like your boss. So you can't just say like, no, I'm not gonna do that. Like yeah, you have a choice, but like you're gonna get in trouble. So anyways, I had like practiced like kind of doing my own thing, and like for like, I would say I practiced doing that for a good year. Like I heard from God for a good year, and sometimes I would obey him, but I would say a good 93% of the time, no, that's generous. I would say a good 98% of the time, I would do what I wanted to do, honestly. So basically, by the time I end up back home and I'm talking to the Lord now, because by the time I got saved again, I felt really bad because I was like, I had this really big problem that only God could fix. And I was like, I can't really ask God to help me fix it because I'm so disobedient. You know what I mean? Like I'm the type of person where like, if you ask me for help or something and then you don't take it, don't ever talk to me again. You know what I mean? Like I used to even say, I don't believe in forgiveness. Like if you mess up, too bad, I'm never speaking to you ever again. Obviously my thoughts on that have changed a lot, but at that point I thought that's how I was thinking God was looking at me. So I make this super huge commitment and I'm like, God, I'm never gonna do anything to disobey you again. Like I'm just gonna like stay on track and I'm just gonna like focus. I make this huge commitment, not having 1/10 of what was required of me. And so a couple weeks later, I'm sitting in this small group and they're talking about how premarital sex is a sin. And I'm just like, so does that mean I have to give this up? Because, ooh, I don't know if that's gonna work for me. I was like, really, like everybody else like carried on, they're talking about their stuff. I was in my head like, Lord, I don't know if I can give that up. Like that's one of my favorite things to do. Like I'm so sorry. And also my whole thing, and then my mind started going, I was like, okay, well they didn't say sex is a sin. They said premarital sex is a sin. I was like, so all I have to do is get married. So then I'm going through my brain trying to figure out, well, who can I marry? You know, ASAP. And I'm like, oh wait, no one. But I'm just like thinking in my head, like, oh my gosh, like what? Like what am I about to do? So then I must have been like visibly disturbed because this girl afterwards, she was like, do you want me to pray for you? And I was like, yeah. And she prayed for me. And the kid that was like super holy, the one who was like, if they're not married, it's not important at all. That guy, he prayed for me too. It was just like really funny. Bro, I think it was like the next morning. I'm almost certain it was the next morning. Yeah. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna be celibate. I was like, that is what I have to do. Like, I'm a good Christian. Like, I sing on the praise team. I go to church. Now I'm celibate. The week before that I found out premarital sex was a sin, there was this girl who was at the group and she was talking and she was like, you know, I've been celibate for the last 3 years. She's like, and it's really hard and I'm struggling. And I was looking at her and I'm just like, girl, you're struggling and it's really hard because you shouldn't be doing it. Just quit. Like, hello. So I was like, you sitting here looking all serious, all depressed, but you acting like you can't just quit. You had sex once, have it again. I was like trying to figure out like, why is she doing this to herself? Like, it's not gonna help you get married any faster. So I'm thinking in my head. And then the next week, I find out that premarital sex is a sin in real life. And I'm just like, that is so crazy. So then, me being me, I go hard. Like when I make a commitment, I am just like so serious. Like I don't play any games. So I'm like, God, I'm gonna be celibate, you know. So then I'm excited about it. So I start calling my friends, and I'm like, guys, guess what? They're like, what? And these are like my friends that have known me since I was like 14, 15 years old. Like since I was a baby. I'm like, yeah, you guys, I'm celibate now. Like, and one of my friends was like, Siki, you are not gonna stay celibate. She's like, I don't even know why you're setting yourself up for failure. And I was like, I'm serious. Like, I'm celibate. Like, I'm not having sex until I get married. She was like, Siki, who are you dating right now? I was like, nobody. Like, I just got saved. I'm not gonna start dating somebody as soon as I get saved. I was so excited. I was so proud of myself, like, to make this commitment. And then her boyfriend at the time, she was like, guess what? Siki's celibate now. And he's like, no, she's not. She's just joking. She jokes about everything. I don't even know why you believe her. And I do joke about everything. And she's like, no, seriously, she's celibate. And he was like, Siki? Didn't she work at a sex museum? And I was like, because I actually used to work at a sex museum. Yeah, and so that is pretty much how I ended up celibate. Like, it was honestly the most unintentional commitment ever. Like, being Christian, I didn't know that like other sacrifices. Well, also because being Christian, in my head, I had already made sacrifices. Like, I was on the praise team, so I had to get up really early on Sunday mornings. So I was like, that's my commitment, like that's my sacrifice. And then more came, and I was like, oh no, ma'am. But then I did it anyways, because I was like, remember, Siki, you told Jesus that you were gonna like be a good servant and be a good daughter, and you were gonna be obedient, and this is what's required of you, obviously, so you have to commit to that. And so I ended up doing it. I stayed celibate for a good 4 years? I think it was 4 years. 3 or 4 years. And then I broke it like an idiot. Don't break your celibacy. If you're celibate, don't break your celibacy. Okay? If you're thinking about becoming celibate, don't overthink it. Like, I almost didn't make that commitment because I was like, how am I gonna get married? Like practically speaking, okay, how am I supposed to get married to a grown man? You know what I mean? Like, how's that gonna work? And I was like, you know, what if the person I'm with isn't Christian? I didn't realize that like that wasn't an option back then. I'm like, what if they don't understand where I'm coming from? I had no idea that like you're not really supposed to be out here dating people that aren't Christian. Because this is when I was like fresh. I did not know anything. And I really did not read the Bible like that. So yeah. And go ahead and try it. If I were you, I would do it. Yeah, like I would never, I'm a virgin again. Like, what even is sex? I don't know anything about that. You know what I mean? Like, you just feel so good. But that feeling does not last very long. Okay? It does not last long, and if you built your whole thing off of that feeling, then baby, you're gonna be upset because, yeah, don't build it off that feeling. But if you really were considering being celibate, I would suggest it, you know, like read your Bible, pray and fast, you know, don't hang out. Well, first of all, don't tell people. No one needs to know that you're celibate, because even your best and most well-meaning friends, if they are not 100% sold out for Jesus, they will even plant seeds in your brain. You know what I mean? Like they're not intentionally trying to hurt you, right? They're not intentionally trying to lead you astray. They're just like, you know, they think the way the world thinks, and they're not wrong for thinking the way the world thinks, you know? They haven't seen the other side of that. So I wouldn't tell anybody. Like, I wouldn't even tell guys that, I actually would tell guys that you're dating, because why waste their time? You know what I mean? Like, if you're gonna be out here dating, I would tell them. A lot of men, like a lot of people in general, only date for the purpose of having someone to consistently have sex with. So you don't want this guy like taking you out constantly, spending all this money on you, I'd hope. And you're just like sitting there looking pretty, and he's like, when am I gonna get some cheeks? I've been working hard. I've been putting in work, you know what I mean? If you're considering going celibate, do it. I highly suggest it, because I'm serious, it really does help your relationship with the Lord. It helps you assess your relationship with your body, with your sexuality, with your emotions, with yourself, which those are important dynamics to consider. Just in life, like even if you don't want to do it until you get married, like you can do it for like a month, you know, or 6 months. If you are a Christian who struggles in this area, I highly suggest, you know what I'm gonna say, go on a fast. Do a proper biblical fast. Don't play a game. Don't do a Daniel fast. Don't do a fast where you take a break to eat 3 times a day. You know, do a proper fast. And pray, get some scriptures, go in the Word of God, get some scriptures and pray those scriptures. When you want to give up, right, read your Bible. Nowadays, how everyone's like, you know, relationship over religion, relationship over rules. I agree. I love that, seriously. But at the same time, sometimes as human beings, we need a consequence for things to matter to us. So it may be important for you to remind yourself that this isn't an optional thing, you know? Like, you made a commitment and you gotta stick with it. Even on the days you don't feel like sticking with it, right? And also it's your perspective. It's also like your perspective as well. Like, don't be like, oh my gosh, like I used to like seriously have such great sex all the time and I was just like having so much fun and I was just in my 20s and like get a hobby. Yeah, that means that you need a hobby for sure. Get a hobby, get some friends, get some friends who aren't hoes as well. That's a seriously important part. I've had a lot of hoe friends. I remember when I was in high school, this guy pulled me aside and he said, why are you hanging out with all these whores? And I was like, cause they're fun. And hoes are lit. Hoes know how to have a good time, okay? That's just one thing. A hoe can have some fun, okay? Them hoes are fun. But at the same time, it's just like, birds of a feather flock together. And it may not, you know, be overnight, but over time, their ways are gonna rub off on you, you know? And also, like what I noticed, if you're constantly comparing yourself to the hoes in your life, nothing you do is gonna seem that bad. Cause you're comparing yourself to people that really do like hoe stuff, like, you know what I mean? So, find a virgin and be friends with her. That actually works for me. Find a virgin and be friends with her, okay? Because I'm just kidding, but seriously, find people to hang out with that have that are like-minded, or have your commitment, but don't tell your friends, because it's just too easy to end up romanticizing your past. That's how I ended up breaking my my celibacy. You know, I was just like, always like, oh my gosh, like, you forget why you made the commitment. And it's funny how human beings, like, we forget so easily. You know what I mean? Like, we just forget. You forget everything that you went through and all the time you wasted. And the next thing you're doing it, you are wasting more time. Just ask the Lord to lead you to the right person. And also ask God to help you not, like, think so much about sex. Because it's like candy. Like, if I'm not thinking about candy, I don't want candy. But the minute I go into Publix and I see a payday of all the candies, I'm like, dang, maybe I should get a payday. Now, when's the last time I had a payday? You know, like, it's how your brain works. So don't like obsess about it. Don't be like, oh my gosh, like, you know, obviously if you are messing with somebody, cut them off. That's silly. So don't tempt yourself. Don't say, oh, well, we're gonna keep seeing each other just as friends. Yeah. Hey, cut these niggas off and live your best celibate. I almost said celibate Siki life, but my name is Siki. Your name probably isn't Siki. But seriously, like, live your best life. It's honestly really fun. And you're gonna see also, when you're celibate, you're gonna have so much energy for the gym. And I'm not saying like I was out here like just humping constantly. No, it was the mental aspect of it. I really wasn't a hoe like that. But I think it's like the mental aspect of it. Like feeling that freedom, like surrendering yourself from that commitment. You know what I mean? It's a lot nicer. And I think I think what was also nice is understanding that like now the next person I commit to, I'm probably gonna marry. Like, let's just be honest. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to sit here and play games with these men, and they're certainly not playing with me. If they're not getting a Kit Kat, they're not gonna play with me. That's it for this video. I will see you guys in the next one. I don't know if I'm gonna post this before or after my fasting video, because I'm gonna film a fasting video right now. Probably. Don't you love when you do your makeup, even if it's something like simple like this, but you just feel so much prettier? You're like, my hair isn't even done. I don't even know what I'm gonna do with it, because it's like, who cares? Let's focus on the makeup. But you know, you do your makeup, you just feel so like, you know. Anyways, okay, that's it for this video. I'll see you in the next one. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Bro, I haven't been saying that in my videos. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.